What's your wildest high school secret? The lug nut bandit. There were 4 instances of cars having their wheels fall off after leaving school. It became a big deal and the school even told us to check our lug nuts before leaving. I never bothered because I knew the truth. Car 1. Myself and 2 friends were working on another student's car in mechanics class. We replaced the rotors and brake pads for him. As teenagers do, we get distracted, and we forgot to do more than one hand tighten on one wheel's lug nuts. After school that day, the car made it about 3 blocks before the wheel fell off while driving. Weird thing to happen, sounds crazy. Car 2, myself and 2 friends, different friends from car 1, take the regular tires off of Buddy's car and put spare tire donuts on. We then did donuts and brake torques all over town one weekend. Buddy changed his own tires and the following week one of his tires fell off while driving, a total accident. But now, the lug nut bandit theory starts to get thrown around. Car 3. An acquaintance that doesn't know it's all fake decides he could use this theory to get rid of his car, and successfully loosens his lug nuts and writes the car off. Lug nut bandit theory now confirmed in general population. Car 4. Some other guy in school uses the same logic as Car 3 and also successfully writes off his car and gets insurance. Lug nut bandit theory is now law. School installs security cameras in parking lot. I've told a few people about the truth, but it's always fun to tell again. Story 2. My elementary school art teacher was a cool hippie. She had a clay jar that said fairy dust on it that had glitter in it, and she would sprinkle it on our heads. She gave us animal crackers and smelled like patchouli. She abruptly left around when I was in 3rd or 4th grade. Apparently, she had cancer, and a year or 2 after that, she went to a gas station, doused herself in gasoline, and set herself on fire. Also, my elementary school science teacher was cool as hell and everyone loved him. He would bring in his pet iguana and let us have water bottles at our desks. This was a big deal in 5th grade for sure. I thought he was so great I gave him my prized possession of dead moths that I'd collected. A couple years ago, he got in a fight with his adult son and his son shot him and unalived him. Very small town, so it was unbelievably shocking. Kind of still is. Story 3. My friend's mom was a math teacher. The summer before I was in her class, I had the brilliant idea to find notes or tests or whatever to cheat with, because I was terrible at math. Whenever I was at their house, I would try to stealthily look around. After a few visits, I was getting frustrated at finding nothing, and expanded my search zone, eventually leading to the parents' bedroom, once everyone had gone outside. I didn't find any math notes, but I did find a drawer with lingerie, toys, lube, etc. The frisky part of my brain took over, and I snatched a pair of lacy underwear, shoved them in my pocket, then went outside and made an excuse to go home. On the first day of school, I realized, obviously, she kept all of her schoolwork in the locked filing cabinets in the classroom. Can I just say, this is something I've never understood. The whole obsession of, underwear in general does absolutely nothing for me. But I guess you do you. Story 4. This story is kinda gross, so bear with me. It was a day where I ordered burritos for lunch, ate it quick and went and hung out with my friends. On our way back to our class, my stomach started hurting. I panicked and ran to the nearest toilet. I did not make it in time and accidentally crapped in my underwear. I was mortified. Lucky enough, no one was in that hall. I started panicking, thinking that at any moment someone would come there and just smell the crap, and me being the only dude there, I'm suspect number 1. Entered the nearest room, which was the AV room, audio-visual room, aka room with big screen. Took off my pants and saw that all the crap was just inside my boxers. Took it off and then panicked on where to throw it. There were no windows. I was desperate to just yeet this away. An idea came to me. So I took the nearest chair so that I can hide it in the ceiling tiles. So I did. Left the room, went to the toilet to clean myself up as much as I can, and was planning to sneak out at night and pick it up and properly dispose of my shameful accident. But I forgot. Next day at lunchtime, I hear the story that morning of the people who used the AV room and smelled something foul. One unlucky dude found the source and tried to push the ceiling tile with a broom to check what was in it, like an idiot. Poor dude took in a boxer-filled crap to the face. No one to this day knows it was me. This is one of those stories that's just specific enough that if this ever happened to you and you're hearing this now, you now know. Because the odds of this happening almost exactly somewhere else are pretty low. Seriously though, it's crazy what our brains think of when we're in panic mode. Because that is obviously not the best decision at all, but it's the one OP took. Story 5. In the lights room in my high school's theater, there was a couch that no one sat on because some tech crew got to rehearsal early and heard a couple going to pound town from outside the door. The room was locked, none of the students had keys, and the couple was gone when the tech had opened the door. So no one ever found out who it was. I was the one receiving the pounding. There was a way to get to lights from backstage with an easy-to-pick lock. Snuck in, boinked, snuck out, never suspected. Some of my cousins go to my old high school, and apparently the couch is still there and is still referred to as the bang couch. So, that's my secret legacy. Story 6. Our boarding school mascot was a tree that was on the campus in a prominent spot. On Mischief night, I had study hall with 2 other students. We were all sociable but not close friends with one another. We decided to completely TP the school tree and stole loads of rolls from the library bathroom. We snuck out of our dorms after midnight and absolutely covered this massive tree in toilet paper and snuck back in. We didn't know that the next morning was when all of the new freshmen were coming, starting with a tour under the school tree. It had also rained, so the tree was dropping globules of wet paper for days. The deans of the school flipped and assumed that they knew who did it, notorious senior pranksters, but couldn't prove it or punish anyone. 12 years later, I mentioned in passing to my BFF from high school that I was the TPer, along with these other 2 random people. He was shocked and had never thought for a second it could be any of us. Not the most wild crime, but it was satisfying to have gotten away with it. Story 7. Every year we had a student versus teacher basketball game. The main Chad McChaddington pulled me aside 15 minutes before the game and asked me to smoke. Him being the most popular and sought-after guy and me being me, I said, okay. I had a blunt with wax on it. We got super stoned and we went on to play. Not just stoned, we were properly destroyed. I sat in the bleachers and watched this dude high out of his mind face off all the teachers, security guards, and principal and dunk on them. No one even suspected he was high. Story 8. The wildest thing I did in high school was the time I snuck into the library during the afternoon pep rally. Now, at the time, I was running the gaming club, so I had the then brand new Nintendo Switch, its dock, as well as a copy of Breath of the Wild in my book bag. Our school also had these giant touchscreen monitors with HDMI support in every classroom, including the library's computer lab. So I pulled up the most comfortable chair, plugged that bad boy in, and played about 2 hours of Breath of the Wild, giant screen experience. By the time 2:30 hit, I packed up all my stuff and bailed before the librarians could ever figure out I was there. Probably my favorite high school memory. Story 9. Guy I went to high school with got kicked out of our school and not too long after that, overdosed over a weekend. A teacher made a comment somewhere along the lines of, he got what he deserved. I didn't even know the guy, just knew of him. I went home that night and created a fake Yahoo email account and emailed every single teacher and staff member about what the teacher said, and pretended to be a rich donor demanding an apology in front of the entire school at the end of the upcoming end-of-year assembly by the teacher who made the comment, or I would never donate another $1. The next day, I saw a couple of teachers reading my email on their computers, so I know it was a conversation topic among the teachers. I got a couple responses, one from my English teacher saying he could tell it was a student email from the emotion it was written with. There was no apology in front of the school, but I know the teacher who made the comment was thoroughly embarrassed. I never told a single person about the email. Like, I get it would probably be kind of easy to tell if it's a student email, but at the same time, what kind of excuses because of the emotion in it? I guess people with a lot of money who donate to schools can't have emotions. Sorry, guys. Story 10. It sounds so stupid now, but in chemistry class, we had a student teacher who was absolutely awful. I was actually pretty good at chemistry, but all my friends were really struggling, like with the D's and F's. And the real teacher would be gone the whole period in the gym or whatever talking to his friends. So he was never around to help when the student teacher was making no sense at all. Like, we wouldn't even see the real teacher for 2 weeks straight. So I made a fake email account and pretended I was an anonymous parent and emailed him threatening to report him for not being in the classroom and leaving the clueless student to teach other clueless students. He did not take it well at all and wrote back a nasty email. He sat the whole class down and said we were all responsible for our grades. But he did remain in the classroom and helped for the rest of the semester. None of my friends ever told anyone that I know of, but I can remember trying to act so calm when he was berating the classroom. Now, I can't even believe I did something so stupid like that, but I just wanted my friends to pass. I feel like if there is a decent amount of students in a high school class that are failing with a D's or F's, there's an actual problem with the teacher. I guess maybe if it's like an AP chemistry class, like an advanced sort of one that you can only take in grade 12, or if you're really, really gifted, then that's a little more understandable. Those are harder and catch people by surprise. But if it's just like a standard like chemistry 10 or 11 and people are failing, I feel like we got problems. Story 11. Our school was right next to a bunch of retail plazas, one of which had a soda shop. So we'd walk over there before class, get a giant soda each, chug half of it, and then fill it the rest of the way with rum. Sometimes, if we were daring, sharing, we would also smoke joints on our walk back. I can't tell you how many times I was faded as hell in class just nodding along. Hooked up with a girl at a school dance. We did it in the halls just past the gym, dumb spot I know. And as we were pulling our pants up, a chaperone walked around the corner and spotted us. Girl at the time started to fake cry to make it look like I was consoling her, and we were never caught. Round 2 was outside the dance directly afterwards. My favorite, though, was from when I was a freshman. Our lunch had a little market for sodas, candy, chips, etc. However, when Michelle Obama's School Lunch Act passed, they had to quit selling due to restrictions. That created a vacant market ready to be filled. So I started selling candy and soda out of my locker. It was slow at first because I only sold to friends, but soon enough the entire student body knew my name and prices. It was very much against the rules, but I would give teachers free treats and energy drinks to look the other way. Then I realized I could be selling much more than candy, so I started selling drugs as well. Everyone knew my locker was full of contraband, so teachers wouldn't question when I would be opening it 1,000 times a day. It was so profitable. I made hundreds of dollars a week, which I would inevitably flip for shoes, more product, and more lockers. I eventually quit due to hearing of kids breaking into lockers looking for my stuff, but I realized early on that I had a knack for dealing like that. Now, don't take this the wrong way, but this sounds like a very specific kind of school. Because I know that, shows and stuff tend to say that a lot of high schools are like this. I don't really think that's the case personally. Maybe it's a Canada thing. But this seems like a little rougher of a school. Graduating from selling contraband snacks and stuff out of your locker to drugs it's a step for sure. As much as I admire the enterprising spirit of OP, I can't say I love the fact that he sold drugs. Depending on what it was. Story 12. I went to boarding school. Over the course of about a month, I reverse engineered the school's master key system and cut myself a master copy. So when everyone else was locked in their dormitory sleeping, I could go wherever I wanted. I explored the whole campus. The IT building, the gym, the decommissioned building that had all the asbestos in it, not the best idea in retrospect. There was an enormous smokestack on the far side of the athletic field and I climbed it. There was also an observatory on the roof of the science building. The telescopes were stored in a room locked by the master key. One night I got some friends together and at 2 a.m. we had a party in the chancellor's office. Those were good times. Story 13. This is my darkest secret I have never told anyone. My best friend was a complete D-bag in high school 15 plus years ago to his girlfriend. Jealous, misogynistic, and all around a jerk. His girlfriend and him constantly fought. We all sided with him and basically hated her. One night while they were in a particularly bad fight, she aimed me, yeah, I'm getting old, to find out what to do. Started with me calling her, telling her to dump him because he treated her like crap. So they break up. She and I start talking innocently at first. Nothing bad, just trying to be nice and apologize for being a total jerk to her. Then I'm helping her with physics homework, and one day she is essentially stranded at school, so I give her a ride home. The next 5 days were extremely weird. On that ride home, she admits that she had a crush on me, and admitted it to my friend, which started a huge fight. And before I know it, we're making out and she's giving me a BJ in my car on a back road in rural Connecticut. I think nothing of it, but she calls me that night to tell me her parents are away for the weekend. For 4 days, I banged her silly in every room of her house. It's the most I've ever done it in a 4-day span. She was essentially at my beck and call, and the thought of doing it behind my friend's back was even hotter. He even showed up at her house and she told him to leave and immediately came back in and I banged her in the kitchen. My car was parked in her garage just in case this exact thing happened. Following Monday, she ends up back with my friend and we never spoke of it again. And they did not break up until after high school was over and I went off to college. But I will say this emotionally screwed me up for years. I had issues when my girlfriends would gain close relationships with my friends thinking back to what happened when I did it. I never had the intention of doing it. I was not even overly attached to her until we first kissed. I still hold that secret to this day, and me and my friend still talk from time to time. I will say he grew up a ton and is happily married and has done a complete 180 in life. I finally got over it too and never really got to talk it over with her, but it messed me up through college for sure. Story 14. I once traded nudes with most of a sleepover party through Snapchat. Girl I was flirting with at the time was at a party when she sent me pre-taken nudes. I sent her nudes I took in the moment, not realizing she sent old pictures. She admitted over text that she was at a party with her friends and all of them had just seen my dong. But it seemed like they were cool with it, because they sent a few group photos of them simultaneously flashing to egg me on and keep it going. It's a secret in the sense that I've never told anyone that story before, but there were probably 7 to 8 people at that party. 2 of them didn't participate out of nerves or whatever. Ultimately, nothing came of it. I never did anything with the girl I was flirting with. Some of her friends gave me their numbers for friends with benefits things, but I wasn't into them, and didn't pursue anything. Still felt cool. Story 15. This is not my proudest moment. There was a popular couple in high school. Classical D-bag dude and a pretty cheerleader. The cheerleader and I took 3 years of French together. We started talking in French 1 and we sat next to each other and worked together constantly in French 2. The French teacher was completely checked out by French 3 because it was his last semester teaching, and he let us do whatever we wanted. In that class, our relationship turned into straight up flirting, touching, and the tension was pretty high. The entire time she was dating the dude. One day, we both took a bathroom break from class, broke into one of the school closets, and made out for what seemed like forever. Again, not my proudest moment. The flirting doubled, and we even hung out outside of class a couple of times. 2 weeks after we made out, a drunk driver crossed the median of a highway, hit the car that her and her boyfriend was driving, and unalived them instantly. Everybody at school was devastated. At a memorial a week later, they have a full 2 pages dedicated to them in the school yearbook. I have never told anyone from my school or anyone in real life that story, not even my best friends at the time. I figured that the memory of them should be nothing but positive. She was sweet to pretty much everyone, while he was a bit of a jerk. But he wasn't a bad guy by any means. I feel like these threads are perfect for people letting out stories like that, because I can imagine just it being bottled up inside. You want to tell someone, you absolutely want to tell someone, but doing so would just ruin the perception of these people who had just passed. OP did the right thing by not saying it to anyone, and it's a hard thing to do, so props to him. Story 16. Homecoming week. My then-girlfriend and I went around TPing houses and writing on car and house windows with washable window chalk. One night we found a house in a nice part of town and went all out. We had no idea who lived there, but we were excited. We TP'd the trees and bushes, wrote all over the windows, and even rearranged every single piece of outdoor furniture they had. They had a full garden full of furniture and stuff. The funniest part to us was that we drew a big, white dong on a sliding glass door and wrote Class of 2016 next to it, which was the class below ours. The next day, the principal held an assembly for the whole school, and explained in tears that someone had gone way too far at someone's house the night before, and went on to state that it was a super old couple's house who had called the police and all that. She asked for the guilty person or people to rat themselves out, or she would cancel the homecoming festivities, dance, football game, etc. Never outed ourselves and nobody ever found out. They didn't cancel the homecoming stuff either, but she and I were some of the student volunteers that went to help fix things. Completely out of the kindness of our hearts, you know? Those poor folks. Story 17. Not my secret, but one of my high school science teacher's wife stole the credit card of the business teacher. Business teacher was at frickin' Crackle Barrel or something getting food, and the science teacher's wife was a waitress there. She stole his frickin' credit card while she was serving him. Then after he left, she bought food for herself and paid herself a big tip, and told her manager that the business teach gave her the card because they're best friends. The manager called the business teacher in the middle of a break, in front of all the other teachers, to ask about it. And the business teacher, in his infinite chadness, goes, "I know of her, but we're not friends." Science wife was fired the next day, and nobody knew what to do about it. None of the teachers would look at science teacher in the eye or talk about it until the both of them had stopped working at the district, which wasn't too long ago. And as a cherry on top, that wasn't the first time science wife had stolen someone's credit card and used it. With the incomes coming from waitressing and a school teacher, I can see the motivation. Don't agree with the methods, but I can see the motivation. Story 18. We had an English/lit teacher who was the typical cool young teacher who leveled with us and told us like it was, cussed and all that. We all adored him, until one day a friend of mine was driving me home and got a text from him that asked what color her underwear was. Apparently they had previously been texting about a project that was due, so he had her number from that. Anyway, he had good intuition as she was generally known to be pretty wild, but my friend and I convinced her to bring it to the attention of the dean because it was screwed up. He was forced to resign, and I've always wondered if he actually admitted to his wife why he was no longer employed. We had a Spanish teacher who was busted with her boyfriend for trafficking drugs. We also had a gang fight in the gym before school that involved dozens of students and a few teachers, one of which was cracked over the head with a broom. Story 19. My music teacher had many inappropriate relations with female students. There was a running joke that he was just some pedo that worked at the school to be close to little girls. Fast forward 15 years and one of those little girls, now married with kids, outed him. Turns out the music teacher was a true predator and ended up having 10 former students come forward about their relationship while underage. The entirely screwed up thing was he only got fired. The school didn't report to the police, and the folks that came forward didn't either. As far as I know, he's still working at another school in the area. Religious schools are all sorts of screwed up. Funny thing is, I ran into him after all this came out, and he tried to be all buddy-buddy with me. I looked him square in the eye, told him to get screwed, and walked away. OP, I think that is the only legitimate reaction to a pedo. Proud of you. That sounds really awful, and more awful that nobody did anything about it. Like, admittedly, I would get why the victims wouldn't want to. That's pretty common for victims of assault of any kind. But the faculty, the administration of the school, come on. These people who are supposed to be in a position of power in order to protect students, don't. That sucks. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed these spicy secrets with me, and I hope you have a wonderful day or night wherever you are. I'll see you in the next one.